So let's talk about a mental model that could totally change the way you see the world and make decisions. It's called Bayesian Thinking, and it's all about one simple, powerful idea: how to smartly update your beliefs when you get new information. Let's get into it.
All right, to show you just how counterintuitive and powerful this can be, we're going to start with a little puzzle. The scenario seems super straightforward, but trust me, the answer is probably not what you think. Okay, so imagine this. You go get a medical test. It comes back positive. Now the box, the doctor, everything says this test is 95% accurate. So, what are the odds you actually have the virus? Seriously, take a second. What does your gut tell you?
Now, for pretty much everyone, the first number that pops into your head is 95%, right? I mean, it just makes sense. The test is 95% accurate, you tested positive, so there's a 95% chance you're sick. It's simple logic. But what if I told you that answer isn't just wrong, it's wildly wrong?
The real probability in this case is only 16%. Yeah, 16. Kind of shocking, isn't it? How on earth can a test that's 95% accurate give you a result where you only have a 16% chance of being sick? It feels like it breaks math, but it doesn't. And to understand why, we have to find the crucial piece of information that our brains almost always forget to look for. So, what is this missing piece of the puzzle? What's the hidden variable that plummets the probability from a confident 95% all the way down to a shaky 16%? Well, it all comes down to something called the base rate. And here it is. This is the missing ingredient. Before you even walked in the door to get tested, the reality was that only a tiny fraction of the population, just 1%, actually has this virus. That means a whopping 99% of people are perfectly healthy. This background fact is the context we were missing.
So the base rate is really just your starting point. It's the odds before you get any new clues. Before the test result, your chance of having the virus was only 1 in 100. The test result doesn't happen in a vacuum. It has to fight against that very, very low starting point.
And this is where our intuition gets tripped up. See, that 5% error rate from the test gets applied to two totally different sized groups. For the tiny 1% of people who are actually sick, a 5% error is a really small number of people. But for the massive 99% of healthy people, a 5% error creates a huge pile of false positives. In fact, you end up with way more false alarms than real ones.
Okay, so now that we get the why behind this crazy puzzle, let's talk about the how. We can actually turn this into a practical tool, a repeatable framework you can use for thinking about, well, anything. It's a simple 4-step process.
Here's the whole dance. First, you start with a base rate. That's your initial belief, your starting odds. Second, you get some new evidence. Third, and this is so important, you have to actually judge the quality of that evidence. Is it a strong signal or just noise? And fourth, you update your belief. Notice, you're not throwing your old belief in the trash, you're just adjusting it, nudging it, based on the strength of the new info.
Okay, so we've got our 4-step framework. But this isn't just for weird medical hypotheticals. This is a universal tool. And to really see it in action, let's apply it to a completely different, super high-stakes world. Venture capital. You know, where investors are trying to find that 1 in a million company.
So imagine you're a VC. Your starting point, your base rate, is just brutal. Only about 1 in every 200 startups actually becomes a huge breakout success. That's just 0.5%. So your starting belief for any company that walks in has to be, this is probably going to fail. Your whole job is to find evidence that is strong enough to overcome those terrible odds.
So how do we judge the quality of the evidence, like in step 3? Well, there's a tool for that, and it's called the likelihood ratio. It's basically a score you give to a piece of evidence to measure how much it should convince you. And the math is simple. Your new odds are just your old odds multiplied by this score. This right here is the key to telling good evidence, the real signal, from all the useless noise. Bad evidence, or noise, is something you see all the time in both winning and losing companies. Think about a slick-looking slide deck. Everyone has one, it doesn't tell you anything. Good evidence, the real signal, is something that's super common in winners, but really, really rare in losers. That's the stuff that matters.
Let's put some real numbers on this. Let's say you find that 90% of winning startups have truly exceptional founders. That's your true positive rate. But then you look at failed startups, and you see that about 10% of them also had founders who looked exceptional on paper. That's your false positive rate. To get the likelihood ratio, you just divide the first number by the second.
So 90% divided by 10%, bam, that gives you a signal strength of 9.
Now, a score of 9 is actually a pretty strong signal. It means this piece of evidence should make you 9 times more confident. But, and here's the kicker, remember that brutal 0.5% base rate? To overcome that, investors figure they need a combined likelihood ratio of over 500 to feel real conviction. So a single signal of 9, even a good one, isn't even close to being enough.
But this is where the real magic happens. You don't look for just one signal. You look for multiple, independent signals, clues that aren't related to each other. So maybe the team is amazing, that's a 9, and they have fantastic early traction, that's a 7. Plus, their product is just brilliant, that's a 5. The key is you don't add them up, you multiply them. So 9 times 7 times 5 gives you a total conviction score of 315. See? Now we're finally starting to overcome those terrible odds.
So let's pull all this together. Whether we're talking about a surprising medical test or a high-stakes investment, this way of thinking is a tool. It forces us to be a little more humble, to question our gut reactions, and to constantly, deliberately update what we believe based on the quality of the evidence we see.
If you remember one thing from all of this, let it be this right here. At its heart, Bayesian thinking is just a structured way to separate the true signal from all the distracting noise out there. It's how you can build real, solid conviction, piece by piece, even when you have no idea what the future holds. And that brings us to a final thought I want to leave you with. Think about a big decision you're wrestling with right now. Could be in your career, your finances, anything. I want you to ask yourself, where is there a hidden base rate? What's the unspoken starting probability that might be quietly steering your judgment more than you even realize?